900 years old, this school is not, but wisdom it needs. Welcome back, everyone, and today we're exploring one of the most fascinating crossover questions in fantasy fiction. What would happen if the legendary Jedi Master Yoda became the headmaster of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry? Now, I know what you're thinking. How would a character from a galaxy far, far away end up running the most famous magical school in Britain? But that's exactly what makes this scenario so interesting. We're going to dive deep into how Yoda's philosophy, teaching methods, and centuries of experience would completely transform the wizarding world as we know it. So grab your wands and may the Force be with you, because we're about to explore a Hogwarts you've never imagined before. Let's set the stage here. Imagine that through some cosmic event, some tear in the fabric of reality, or perhaps through magic we don't yet understand, Yoda finds himself in the Harry Potter universe. The Ministry of Magic, always concerned with maintaining order and finding the most qualified individuals for important positions, discovers this ancient being with incredible powers and wisdom beyond measure. After the events with previous headmasters, after the turmoil and the battles and the constant threat of dark forces, they need someone truly exceptional. Someone who has seen empires rise and fall, someone who has trained generations of powerful individuals, someone who understands the balance between light and dark better than anyone alive. The ministry approaches Yoda, and after much deliberation and meditation, he accepts. Not out of a desire for power or prestige, but because he senses something important. He feels the imbalance in this world. He recognizes that young witches and wizards are being trained in magic, yes, but not in the discipline of mind and spirit that such power requires. He sees the same patterns that led to the fall of the Jedi Order, the same warning signs, the same potential for catastrophe, and Yoda, having lived with the regret of his failures, having seen the rise of Darth Vader and the fall of the Republic, is not about to let history repeat itself in this new world he's discovered. Picture the scene. The Great Hall is packed with students, professors, and staff. Everyone is whispering, confused, curious about who the new headmaster will be. The doors open, and in walks this small, ancient creature. Some students snicker, some look bewildered. The Slytherins exchange glances, already scheming, but then Yoda reaches the front of the hall, and without using a single spell, without waving a wand, every candle in the room flares brighter. The whispering stops. The very air seems to vibrate with power. Minerva McGonagall, sitting at the staff table, straightens in her chair. She's felt powerful magic before, but this is something different. This is something ancient and vast and completely foreign to anything she's experienced. Yoda looks out over the assembled students with those ancient eyes, eyes that have seen more than any wizard alive, and when he speaks, his voice carries to every corner of the hall without amplification, without magic, just pure presence. Gathered here you are to learn magic, but magic alone, enough it is not. Power without wisdom, dangerous it becomes. Discipline without compassion, to darkness it leads. In my 900 years, trained many students, I have seen the rise and fall of those with great power. I have witnessed. Here at Hogwarts, teach you more than spells, I will. Teach you balance, I will. Teach you to look inside yourselves, I will. For the greatest magic from within it comes. The students don't know how to react. This isn't the grandfatherly warmth of Dumbledore. This isn't the stern authority of previous headmasters. This is something entirely new. Harry Potter, sitting at the Gryffindor table, feels something stir inside him. It's the same feeling he got when he first held his wand. That sense of recognition, of connection. Hermione is already mentally cataloging everything about this strange new headmaster, trying to understand what he is and where he came from. Ron just looks confused, which is pretty standard for Ron. But even he can sense that things at Hogwarts are about to change dramatically. That first night, after the students have gone to their dormitories, Yoda calls a staff meeting. The professors gather in the headmaster's office, which Yoda has already begun to modify. Gone are many of Dumbledore's silver instruments. In their place, a simple meditation space, some plants that seem to glow with an inner light, and in one corner, what appears to be a small swamp. Snape raises an eyebrow at this. McGonagall clears her throat, ready to establish some professional boundaries with this unusual new headmaster. Headmaster Yoda, she begins, her Scottish accent crisp and formal. I think we need to discuss the curriculum and your plans for the school. We have standards to maintain, examinations to prepare students for, and a very specific way of doing things that has worked for over 1,000 years. Yoda nods slowly, his ears twitching slightly. Yes, Standards important they are, but stagnant traditions can become. Teach the same way for 1,000 years you have. And yet wars still come. Dark wizards still rise. Fear and anger, still they grip young hearts. Perhaps new methods needed? They are. Flitwick, always the most open-minded of the staff, leans forward with interest. What kind of methods did you have in mind, Headmaster? And this is where Yoda begins to outline his vision for Hogwarts. It's not about destroying what came before, but about building upon it, adding layers of training that the wizarding world has never considered. He talks about meditation, about centering oneself before attempting magic. He speaks of the danger of using magic while angry or afraid, how emotions can corrupt the intent behind a spell. He describes training methods that focus on control, on understanding the self before trying to control the world around you. The professors listen, some skeptical, some intrigued, but all of them beginning to understand that Hogwarts is entering a new era. Snape, ever the contrarian, speaks up. And what of the dark arts? Do you propose we simply meditate them away? Some of us understand that darkness must be fought with knowledge, with power, not with sitting cross-legged and humming. Yoda's eyes fix on Snape. And for a moment, the potions master feels as if every secret he's ever kept is laid bare. Much pain in you, I sense. Much anger, much loss. The dark arts, understand them I do. But consumed by darkness you must not be. Use your pain to protect others, you can. Or let it poison you, you might. A choice it is. Always a choice it is. Snape has no response. For the first time in years, someone has cut through all his defenses, all his carefully constructed walls, and seen him clearly. It's uncomfortable and unsettling, but also, in a strange way, liberating. The next morning, students arrive at breakfast to find a new notice on the house notice boards. Beginning immediately, all students will participate in morning meditation sessions before classes. There's an immediate uproar. Meditation? What kind of ridiculous idea is that? They're here to learn magic, not sit around doing nothing. But the notice is clear, and it's not optional. At dawn the next day, the entire school is required to gather in the Great Hall. When they arrive, sleepy and grumbling, they find the tables have been moved aside. Yoda stands at the center of the hall, looking impossibly small and yet somehow filling the entire space with his presence. Sit, you will, he instructs. The students, unsure what else to do, sit on the floor. Close your eyes. Feel the magic around you. Not reach for it, not grasp it, just feel it. Like a river, magic flows. Force it you can, but work with its current. Much easier it is. At first the students fidget and whisper, but Yoda walks among them, his walking stick tapping gently on the stone floor, and where he passes, a strange calm settles. Harry finds himself actually following the instructions, and to his surprise, he does feel something. It's like the magic is alive, moving through the castle, through the grounds, through every living thing. It's beautiful and terrifying and completely unlike anything he's experienced in a classroom. Hermione, of course, takes to it immediately. She's always been good at following instructions, at mastering new skills through dedication and practice. But this is different from learning spells or memorizing potion ingredients. This is about letting go, about not trying so hard, and that's actually much more difficult for her. Ron falls asleep within 5 minutes, which is predictable, but even he admits later that he had some pretty weird and vivid dreams. Over the following weeks, Hogwarts transforms. The changes start small but build into something revolutionary. Defense against the dark arts, always a troubled subject with a revolving door of teachers, gets a complete overhaul. Yoda takes over the class personally, and his methods are unlike anything the students have experienced. Instead of starting with spells and counter curses, he starts with awareness. He teaches them to sense intent, to feel when someone wishes them harm, to trust their instincts. He has them practice dueling, but not with wands at first. They practice movement, footwork, timing, learning to read an opponent's body language. A wand, powerful it is, Yoda explains, disarming Draco Malfoy without touching his own wand, without even seeming to move. But predictable it makes you. Depend on it too much, you do. What happens, when your wand is taken? Helpless, are you? No magic from within it comes. The wand, just a focus it is, a tool. Lose the tool but keep the power you can. He demonstrates, lifting 3 students into the air without a wand, without words, with nothing but focused intention. The students are shocked. They've been taught that magic requires wands, requires incantations, requires specific movements and pronunciations. But here is proof that those are just training wheels, that true mastery goes far deeper. Hermione's hand shoots up, as it always does. But Headmaster, wandless magic is supposed to be incredibly advanced. Even most adult wizards can't perform it reliably. And why is that? Yoda asks, turning to face her. Because taught to depend on wands they are. From their first year a crutch, the wand becomes. Necessary you believe it is, and so necessary it becomes. But the magic always inside you it was. Before you held a wand, when accidental magic you performed, where was the wand then? This question ripples through the class. Every student has performed accidental magic before Hogwarts, before they even knew they were magical. Harry turned his teacher's hair blue. Neville bounced when he fell from a height. They did magic without wands, without knowing how, because they needed to, because the magic responded to their need. Yoda is teaching them to return to that instinctive connection with magic, to trust themselves rather than their tools. The practical application starts slowly. Students spend weeks just trying to light candles without their wands, just with focused intention and will. It's frustrating and difficult, and many students complain that this is setting them back, that they should be learning proper spells for their exams. But Yoda is unmoved. Your exams, pass them you will. But survive the darkness ahead, will you? Power without understanding. More dangerous than no power at all, it is. And there's that phrase again, the darkness ahead. Yoda keeps referring to it, keeps preparing them for something. The older students, especially those who remember the return of Voldemort, understand. The younger ones think he's being paranoid, but Harry knows better. Harry has faced that darkness, has looked into Voldemort's eyes, and he understands that Yoda is preparing them for war. Speaking of Voldemort, let's talk about how the Dark Lord would respond to this new development at Hogwarts. In the shadows, gathering his followers and planning his return to power, Voldemort hears about this strange new headmaster. At first he's dismissive. What threat could some ancient creature pose to him, the greatest dark wizard of the age? But then his spies bring troubling reports. Students are learning to sense dark magic, to feel malicious intent. The usual methods of infiltration and corruption are becoming more difficult. And this Yoda creature seems to have powers that don't follow the normal rules of magic. Voldemort decides he needs to see for himself. He can't physically go to Hogwarts yet, not without revealing his return. But he has other methods. Through his connection with Harry Potter, the connection formed by the Horcrux in Harry's scar, Voldemort tries to observe, to learn about this new headmaster. But the moment he tries to look through Harry's eyes during one of Yoda's classes, something strange happens. Yoda's head turns, those ancient eyes looking directly at Harry, or rather, through Harry at Voldemort himself. Watching, someone is, Yoda says quietly. The classroom goes silent. Dark presence, I feel. Interesting. He walks slowly toward Harry, and Harry feels the scar on his forehead burning, but differently than before. It's hot, yes, but also there's something else, something cool and soothing wrapping around the pain, containing it. Yoda places one three-fingered hand on Harry's shoulder. Carrying a burden you are. Alone with it you have been, but alone no longer. Speak about this, we will. After class, see me in my office, you will. Voldemort recoils from the connection, actually feeling something he hasn't felt in decades. Not fear exactly, but caution. This creature, this Yoda, sensed him instantly, saw through the connection, perceived his presence. And that cooling sensation, that containment of the link between himself and Potter, that was power of a type Voldemort doesn't understand. He needs to learn more. He needs to understand what he's facing. After class, Harry makes his way to the headmaster's office. He's nervous, unsure what to expect. When he arrives, Yoda is waiting, sitting in a chair that's been modified to accommodate his small stature. Sit, young Potter, sit. Tea, would you like? No? Very well. Talk we must about the connection you share with the Dark Lord. Harry is stunned. How did you, Professor Dumbledore knew, but sense it, I do. Feel the dark magic I can. Within you, a piece of him lives. A Horcrux, I believe you call it in your world. In mine, similar magics existed. Sith alchemy, dark rituals. Same principle. Split the soul, anchor it to an object, cheat death. Always it ends badly. For a price, dark magic comes. Always a price. Harry feels a wave of relief wash over him. Finally someone who understands, who sees it clearly. Dumbledore knew, but he kept so many secrets, revealed things only when he deemed it necessary. Yoda, it seems, has no patience for such games. Can you remove it? The Horcrux? Yoda is silent for a long moment, his ears drooping slightly. Difficult it would be. Connected to your life force, it has become. Remove it violently, and damage to you there would be. Perhaps a way there is. But time it will take. Training it will require. Your connection to the Dark Lord, use it against him, we can. But first, strengthen your mind, we must. Teach you occlumency, I will, but not the way Severus teaches. His way, all walls and barriers it is. Anger and pain he uses to shut others out. That way, to darkness it leads. No, teach you stillness, I will. A mind like a smooth lake. Thoughts like reflections on the surface. Disturb them, an intruder can. But the depths, calm they remain. Untouched, unreachable. And so begins Harry's private training with Yoda. Every evening after dinner, Harry goes to the headmaster's office. They don't always work on occlumency. Sometimes Yoda teaches him about balance, about the dangers of revenge and hatred. He tells Harry about a young Jedi he once trained, the most gifted student he'd ever seen, who fell to the dark side because he couldn't let go of his attachments, his fears. He doesn't say the name Anakin Skywalker because Harry wouldn't understand the reference, but the lessons are clear. Power without wisdom is dangerous. Talent without discipline leads to catastrophe. Harry learns more in these sessions than he has in years of schooling. He learns that his anger at Voldemort, his desire for revenge, is natural but dangerous. Use your anger, you might, Yoda warns. Powerful it would make you, but consume you it would. Become like him you might. Defeat the Dark Lord, only to become the next Dark Lord. Seen it before I have. Again and again, the cycle repeats. Break the cycle you must. But how? Harry asks, frustrated. He killed my parents. He's killed so many people. How am I supposed to not be angry? Feel the anger you can, Yoda says gently. Acknowledge it. But controlled by it you must not be. A fire anger is. Warm you it can, guide you in darkness. But let it rage unchecked and destroy everything it will. Your anger, use it to protect others. Channel it into determination. But hatred, that you must release. For your sake, not for his. Hatred poisons. Hatred destroys the vessel that holds it. These are hard lessons. Harry struggles with them. He wants to hate Voldemort. It feels righteous and justified. But slowly, through meditation and training, he begins to understand what Yoda is teaching. It's not about forgiving Voldemort or excusing his actions. It's about not letting Voldemort's evil corrupt Harry's own heart. It's about fighting from a place of protection rather than revenge. From love rather than hatred. During one particularly intense session, Yoda decides to show Harry something he's never shown anyone in this world. They're sitting in the meditation chamber that Yoda has created in a secluded part of the castle. A room that seems to exist slightly outside of normal space, where time moves differently and the connection to magic feels more pure and raw. The walls are lined with crystals that pulse with a soft blue light, and the air smells of ozone and something ancient that Harry can't quite identify. Show you something. I will, Yoda says, his voice taking on a tone that Harry has learned means something important is about to happen. A memory. Not from this world, from mine. Understand you must where these lessons come from. Why important they are? Yoda raises one small hand and suddenly the air in front of them shimmers. Harry gasps as images begin to form, like a pensive memory but somehow more vivid, more real. He sees a massive temple gleaming in sunlight, filled with beings in brown robes. He sees a young boy with sandy hair and bright blue eyes, full of enthusiasm and potential. He sees that same boy grow into a young man, powerful and gifted beyond measure. And then he sees the darkness creep in, sees the fear and anger take hold, sees the transformation into something terrible and evil. Anakin Skywalker, Yoda says softly. And there's such pain in his voice that Harry feels tears prick at his own eyes. The Chosen One, he was called. Bring balance to the Force, the prophecy said. Most powerful Jedi who ever lived, he could have been. But lost to the dark side, he was. Became Darth Vader, helped destroy everything we built, killed the younglings, hunted down his former friends, all because afraid he was, afraid of losing those he loved. And that fear, twisted by a dark master it was, until love became possession, protection became control, and a hero became a monster. The images shift, showing the fall of the Jedi Temple, the slaughter of innocents, the rise of the Empire. Harry watches in horror as this powerful being cuts down even children in his quest for power. How? Harry whispers. How could someone so good become so evil? Good question, that is, Yoda replies, the images fading. And the answer, important for you it is. Anakin, chosen for prophecy he was, special everyone said, gifted beyond measure, but arrogant he became. Believed rules did not apply to him. Believed his power meant he knew better. Attached he was. To his mother. To his secret wife. Love them he did. But possess them he also did. When fear came, when saw visions of their deaths he did. Anything to prevent it, he would do. Even evil. Even darkness. That's different from me, Harry protests. I don't want to possess anyone. I just want to stop Voldemort. Sure you are. Yoda's eyes bore into Harry's soul. Your godfather lost you did. Your parents murdered they were. Your friends in danger they are. Do anything to protect them, would you not? Even use dark magic? Even kill? Even become what you hate, if it meant they would be safe? Harry opens his mouth to deny it, but the words die in his throat. Because Yoda is right. He would do anything to protect Ron and Hermione. He would use unforgivables if he thought it would save them. He would kill without hesitation if it meant keeping them safe. And isn't that exactly what Anakin thought? That he was doing whatever it took to save the ones he loved? See it now, you do, Yoda says gently. The same path before you it lies. Good intentions Anakin had. Love in his heart he had. But choices he made one by one led him to darkness. First compromise, then another. Then another. Until look at himself he could not. Until become the very thing he fought against he had. So what do? Harry asks desperately. How do I fight Voldemort without becoming like him? Remember always you must. Fighting for what you are. Not fighting to kill him. Fighting to protect others. Not fighting from hatred. Fighting from love. The moment your goal becomes his death rather than others' safety, lost you are. The moment enjoy his pain you do. Begun your fall it has. Every choice, every moment, ask yourself, towards the light does this lead me? Or towards the dark? This conversation becomes a turning point for Harry. He understands now why Yoda is so insistent on balance, on emotional control, on understanding oneself. It's not about being emotionless or cold. It's about being aware of your own darkness, your own capacity for evil, and choosing every single day, every single moment, to be better, to be more. Meanwhile, the changes at Hogwarts continue to ripple outward in ways both subtle and profound. The house system undergoes its transformation not just in mixed classes but in fundamental philosophy. Yoda meets with each house separately, talking to them about what their qualities really mean, about how those qualities can be used for good or twisted to evil. With Gryffindor, he addresses their courage and daring. Brave you are, he tells them during a house meeting in their common room, sitting on a table while the students gather around. Valued bravery is. Important it is. But reckless bravery can become foolish. Rush into danger without thinking, many Gryffindors do. Die pointlessly they might, or worse, get others killed. True bravery, know when to fight and when to wait. Know when courage means charging forward and when courage means holding back. Brave it is to face your enemies. Braver still to face your friends when wrong they are. Bravest of all to face yourself, your own flaws, your own mistakes. That kind of courage, work on it, you must. He tells them about Jedi he knew who were brave but foolish, who charged into situations they weren't prepared for and died needlessly. He tells them about the difference between courage and bravado, between confidence and arrogance. The Gryffindors, used to being praised for their boldness, find this challenging, but they also recognize the truth in it. How many times has Gryffindor lost points because someone rushed into something without thinking? How many times has their courage tipped over into recklessness? With Ravenclaw, Yoda discusses wisdom versus mere intelligence. Smart you are, he tells them in their tower common room, surrounded by books and the statue of Rowena Ravenclaw. Prize knowledge you do. Good that is, but knowledge without wisdom, dangerous it is. Know many things you might, but understand them do you? Apply them wisely do you? Or just collect facts like trinkets? Thinking knowing makes you superior. He pauses, letting that sink in. The darkest wizards, very intelligent they were. Knew powerful magic, understood complex theory, but wise? No. Used knowledge for selfish purposes, for power, for control. Intelligence without compassion, without ethics, without wisdom, leads to evil as surely as stupidity does. He challenges them to use their intelligence in service to others, not just to prove how clever they are. He introduces them to the concept that sometimes the wisest choice is to admit you don't know something, to ask for help, to recognize the limits of your knowledge. This is difficult for Ravenclaws, who pride themselves on being the smartest people in any room. But slowly, they begin to understand that true wisdom includes humility. With Hufflepuff, Yoda finds kindred spirits. Their values of loyalty, hard work, and fairness align closely with Jedi principles. But even here, he finds areas to challenge them. "Loyal you are," he says in their cozy basement common room, surrounded by plants and the warm glow of lamps. "Value friendship, you do. Work hard, you do." All good, these things are. But loyal to wrong causes, one can be. Work hard at wrong tasks, one might. Fair to those who deserve destruction, should you be. Nuance you must learn. Loyalty to friends, good it is. But if your friend turns to darkness, what then? Support them in evil, will you? Or have courage to stand against them? He tells them about the clones, soldiers bred for loyalty, who followed orders even when those orders meant killing the Jedi they had fought beside for years. Absolute loyalty without judgment, without the willingness to question, can lead to atrocity. The Hufflepuffs, uncomfortable with conflict and confrontation, find this particularly challenging. But it's a lesson they need to hear. Sometimes kindness means being harsh. Sometimes fairness means not treating everyone the same. Sometimes loyalty to a principle must override loyalty to a person. And with Slytherin, Yoda spends the most time, because this is the house that needs his wisdom most. They meet in their dungeon common room, and there's tension in the air. These are the students who have been taught that power is everything, that cunning and ambition justify any means. They're suspicious, wondering if this new headmaster is just another person who will judge them, who will assume they're all future dark wizards. Misunderstood. "You are," Yoda begins, and that immediately gets their attention. No one has ever said that to Slytherin House before. "Ambitious you are. Want to be great, to achieve, to succeed. Wrong with that, nothing is. Cunning, resourceful, determined. All good qualities, these are. But corrupted they have been. By dark wizards who came before. By pure-blood supremacists who twisted ambition into cruelty, cunning into manipulation, determination into ruthlessness." He looks around at their faces, seeing the mixture of defensiveness and hope. "Salazar Slytherin, meet him I did not, but understand his values, I think I do. Wanted to protect magical people, he did. Preserve magical bloodlines, magical culture. Not evil that intent was. But paranoid he became. Afraid he was. And fear to hatred it led. Hatred of those different, those born to non-magical parents. A protective instinct became bigotry, became supremacy. And those who followed took it further still. Until Slytherin House, synonymous with darkness it became. Draco Malfoy speaks up from the back, his voice challenging but also curious. "So what are we supposed to do about it? We didn't choose our house. We didn't create its reputation." "No, chose it you did not." Yoda agrees. "But change it you can. Redefine what Slytherin means. Be ambitious, yes, but ambitious for good. To cure diseases. To make magical world better. To protect those weaker than you, not exploit them. Be cunning, yes, but use strategy to outthink dark wizards, not to hurt innocents. Be resourceful, yes, but use resources to help, not just to get ahead. Your house, dark it is not. Your house is what you make it. And choose to make it something better, you can." Over the following weeks and months, something remarkable happens in Slytherin House. Not an overnight transformation, nothing that dramatic, but a slow shift in culture. Students start questioning the pure-blood rhetoric they've been fed since birth. They start wondering if maybe ambition doesn't have to mean stepping on others. Draco, in particular, becomes a kind of test case for whether a Slytherin can change. His evolution is painful and difficult. He still acts superior much of the time. He still makes snide comments. But in his private sessions with Yoda, which the headmaster insists on having with any student who shows signs of being recruited by dark forces, Draco begins to crack. "My father," he says one day, his voice barely above a whisper, "he's going to want me to take the dark mark. When I'm 17. It's expected. It's tradition in our family. And want this, you do?" Yoda asks. "I don't know." Draco's composure breaks. "I don't know what I want. I've been told my whole life what I should want, what I should believe, who I should be. But watching the other houses, seeing how they don't live in fear of saying the wrong thing, of disappointing their parents, I wonder if maybe there's another way. But if I refuse the mark, my father will disown me. My mother might never speak to me again. The Dark Lord will mark me as a traitor. I'll have nothing. Have yourself, you would," Yoda says quietly. "Have your integrity, your soul, your future, unclaimed by darkness. Nothing, that is not. Everything, that is." Draco breaks down then, really breaks down, crying for the first time since he was a small child. And Yoda lets him, understanding that sometimes you have to fall apart before you can put yourself back together in a better configuration. When Draco finally calms down, Yoda makes him an offer. Protect you, we will. If refuse the mark, you do. If stand against your family, you must. Alone, you will not be. Hogwarts a sanctuary can become. The Order, protect you they will. A new life, build it you can. Hard it will be. Painful, but yours it will be. Your choice. Your path. This promise, this offer of protection and a different path, is something Draco has never considered possible. He's been trapped in a destiny that was decided for him before he was born. But maybe, just maybe, with Yoda's help and the protection of Hogwarts, he can choose differently. The Triwizard Tournament, if it happens under Yoda's leadership, becomes a very different event. When the Goblet of Fire spits out Harry's name as an unexpected fourth champion, Yoda's reaction is immediate and decisive. He doesn't argue about the binding magical contract. He doesn't force Harry to compete. Instead, he examines the goblet itself, feeling the dark magic that tampered with it, tracing the manipulation back to its source. Entered yourself? You did not, Yoda announces to the entire hall, to the judges, to the other schools. Manipulated the goblet was. Dark magic, I sense. Someone wants Harry Potter in this tournament. Someone has an agenda. Until find them we do, compete Harry will not. Barty Crouch Sr. blusters about magical contracts and binding oaths. Karkaroff argues about the honor of the tournament. Madame Maxime worries about the political implications. But Yoda is immovable. A student's safety, more important than politics, it is. More important than tradition. More important than honor. Discover who did this, we will. And then, deal with them, we shall. The investigation that follows is methodical and thorough. Yoda works with McGonagall and Snape, examining every person who had access to the goblet. They interview students, review memories in a pensieve, trace magical signatures, and slowly, inevitably, they close in on Mad-Eye Moody. Or rather, the person impersonating Mad-Eye Moody. The false Moody is good, very good. His disguise is perfect. His behavior matches what people expect from the paranoid ex-Auror. But Yoda senses something off, something that doesn't quite fit. It's not that the disguise is flawed. It's that underneath the polyjuice, underneath the magical transformation, there's a darkness that doesn't match Moody's gruff but fundamentally good nature. Yoda arranges a meeting, ostensibly to discuss Harry's training. Moody arrives, flask in hand, magical eye whirring. They talk for a while about defense tactics, about threats that Harry might face. And then casually, Yoda offers Moody some tea. Special tea from his homeworld, he says. A rare treat. Moody, suspicious as always, declines. But Yoda insists, pouring cups for both of them, drinking from his own to show it's safe. What Moody doesn't know is that Yoda doesn't need poison to test him. He just needs the man to stay in his presence long enough. Because Polyjuice Potion requires regular doses to maintain. And this meeting, carefully timed, is happening right as the imposter's latest dose should be wearing off. They talk for exactly 1 hour. Yoda keeps the conversation going, asking question after question, telling long stories about battles and tactics. And then right at the 60-minute mark, he sees it. A flicker in the magical eye, a slight shift in posture, the beginning of a transformation. Interesting, Yoda says quietly. Run out of polyjuice you have. Barty Crouch Jr. knows immediately that he's caught. He goes for his wand, but Yoda is faster. Without even moving visibly, Crouch finds himself frozen, unable to move, unable to speak, unable to do anything but stand there as his disguise melts away, revealing his true face. Within minutes, Aurors arrive. Crouch is taken into custody, questioned under Veritaserum, and the entire plot is revealed. Voldemort's plan to use the Triwizard Tournament to capture Harry, to use his blood in a resurrection ritual, all of it comes to light. This changes everything. The Ministry can no longer deny that something is happening, that dark forces are moving. Cornelius Fudge, coward that he is, wants to cover it up, to pretend it's an isolated incident. But Yoda makes sure the truth gets out. He contacts the press, provides evidence, gives interviews. The Daily Prophet might be in the Ministry's pocket, but other publications exist, and soon the story is everywhere. Barty Crouch Jr., Death Eater, infiltrated Hogwarts. Voldemort is plotting a return. The wizarding world needs to prepare. Some people believe it. Some don't, but enough do that preparations begin. The Order of the Phoenix reforms, not in secret but openly. Auror recruitment increases. Defensive wards are strengthened around vulnerable locations. It's not perfect, but it's something. It's better than the year of denial that happened in the original timeline. Harry, freed from the obligation to compete in the tournament, continues his training with Yoda. They work on the connection to Voldemort, on the Horcrux in his scar. It's delicate, dangerous work. The Horcrux is deeply embedded, intertwined with Harry's own life force in ways that make separation difficult. But Yoda is patient, and he has techniques from his own universe that might help. In my world, Force-sensitive beings sometimes carry dark entities, Yoda explains during one session. Sith spirits, they were called. Ancient evil attached to the living. Remove them? Jedi healers could, but dangerous it was. Required the patient to be strong in the Force, to fight from within while healer fought from without. Similar, your situation is. The Horcrux, part of you it is not, but connected it has become. So fight it, you must, from inside. While help from outside, I provide. The process takes months. Every session Harry meditates, going deep within his own mind, finding the place where his soul meets the foreign darkness. It's terrifying. The Horcrux, when he focuses on it, feels like a living thing, malevolent and hungry. It whispers to him, tells him he's weak, tells him he'll never be free, tells him that he and Voldemort are the same. But Harry fights it, using everything Yoda has taught him. He doesn't fight with anger or hatred. He fights with love, with light, with the memory of everyone he's lost and everyone he still has to protect. And slowly, so slowly, the connection weakens. Yoda, working from outside, uses techniques that blend magic and the Force. He can't use the Force in this universe the way he did in his own. But magic and the Force, he's discovered, are similar enough that principles from one can inform the other. He channels magic through Harry, not attacking the Horcrux directly, but strengthening Harry's own soul, making him more solid, more defined, so that the foreign darkness has less to cling to. It's exhausting for both of them. After each session, Harry sleeps for hours, and Yoda meditates to recover his strength. But progress is being made. The scar on Harry's forehead hurts less. The visions from Voldemort come less frequently. The sense of connection, of unwanted intimacy with the Dark Lord, begins to fade. They're not ready yet for the final separation, but they're getting closer. While this is happening, Hermione is undergoing her own transformation under Yoda's teaching. She's always been brilliant, always been the smartest witch of her age. But she's also been anxious, desperate to prove herself, to show that a Muggle-born can be just as good as anyone with magical heritage. Yoda sees this insecurity and works to address it. Prove yourself you must not, he tells her during a session in the library where he finds her studying late into the night. Already proved you have. Smartest student in your year, perhaps in the school you are, but driven by fear you are. Fear of not being good enough, fear of being sent away, fear that if not perfect you are, accepted you will not be. Hermione wants to deny it, but she can't. It's all true. She's terrified that if she's not the best, if she doesn't have all the answers, people will realize she doesn't belong in the magical world. But I have to work harder than everyone else, she says. I don't have the advantages they have. No magical parents to teach me. No childhood surrounded by magic. I have to make up for that. Make up for it? Yoda's ears perk up. A disadvantage you think it is to be raised by Muggles? See it differently, I do. Not indoctrinated you were. Not taught that only one way exists. Fresh perspective you bring. Question traditions you do. Challenge assumptions. An advantage, that is. Different, not inferior. This perspective rocks Hermione's world. She spent so much time trying to overcome what she saw as a deficit that she never considered it might actually be a strength. Her Muggle background means she can think outside the rigid boxes that pure-blood wizards build around themselves. She can imagine solutions they never would, because she's not limited by centuries of, this is how we've always done it. Yoda also works on her tendency to rely solely on book knowledge. Smart you are, he says. But books, limited they are. Tell you what others learned, they can. But your own experience, your own insight, your own intuition, just as valuable they are. Trust yourself, you must. Not just the books. This is hard for Hermione. Books have always been her safety net, her way of understanding the world. But Yoda pushes her to experiment, to try things that aren't in textbooks, to trust her instincts. He teaches her that sometimes the best solution isn't the one you read about, but the one you create in the moment, combining knowledge with creativity and intuition. As for Ron, well, Ron has always lived in the shadow of his successful brothers and his brilliant friends. He's the sidekick, the funny one, the one who's brave but not particularly special. At least that's how he sees himself. Yoda sees something very different. He sees strategic thinking, sees loyalty deeper than almost anyone else's, sees someone who keeps a team together, who provides the emotional core that Harry and Hermione need. Important. "You are Ron Weasley," Yoda tells him one day, catching Ron completely off guard. The headmaster has called him to his office, and Ron is trying to figure out what he did wrong. "More important than you know." "I'm not important," Ron says automatically. "I'm just, Harry's friend, Hermione's friend. Nothing special." "Wrong you are." Yoda's tone is firm. "Harry powerful he is. Hermione brilliant she is. But you hold them together, you do. Without you, fall apart they would." Harry becomes too serious, too burdened. Hermione, too focused on perfection. You remind them to laugh, to be human, to remember what fighting for they are. Glue of the group you are. Part of the team. Underestimate that, do not. Ron has never thought of himself this way. He's always focused on what he can't do, on how he doesn't measure up. But Yoda helps him see his value, and not just his value to Harry and Hermione, but his own inherent worth. Ron is a natural strategist, something that shows in his chess playing but applies to much more. He's also incredibly brave. Even if he doesn't give himself credit for it, he faces his fears constantly, even when terrified. Yoda works with Ron on confidence, on recognizing his own strengths, on understanding that being support doesn't mean being lesser. Some of the most important people in any battle are the ones who hold the line, who support others, who make sure the team functions. Not everyone can be the hero. Not everyone should be. But everyone has a role, and Ron's role is vital. The three of them, Harry, Ron, and Hermione, train together regularly under Yoda's guidance. He teaches them to fight as a unit, to cover each other's weaknesses, to enhance each other's strengths. Harry is the power hitter, the one who goes head-on against the biggest threats. Hermione is the tactician, the one who identifies weaknesses and devises strategies. Ron is the defender, the one who keeps them alive, who makes sure they don't get flanked, who protects them when they're vulnerable. They practice scenarios, simulated battles where they have to work together against multiple opponents. Sometimes they face older students. Sometimes they face animated suits of armor that Yoda has enchanted to fight at varying levels of skill. Sometimes they face illusions, enemies that aren't real but require real responses. Through it all, they learn to trust each other completely, to move as one, to fight as a unified whole rather than three individuals. This training extends beyond just the trio. The DA kids, even without forming a formal organization since defense training is already happening openly, become a tight-knit group. Neville, Ginny, Luna, the Weasley twins, Dean, Seamus, Lavender, Parvati, Padma, all of them train together. They form bonds that transcend house divisions. They learn each other's fighting styles, their strengths and weaknesses. They become something the wizarding world hasn't seen in a long time, a coordinated fighting force of young wizards prepared for battle. But Yoda knows that physical training and magical skill aren't enough. The mind is just as important, perhaps more so. So he institutes philosophy classes, voluntary at first but increasingly popular. Students gather in the evening to discuss ethics, morality, the nature of good and evil. They debate whether the ends justify the means, whether it's ever acceptable to use dark magic for good purposes, where the line is between self-defense and revenge. These discussions are heated and passionate. Students argue, challenge each other, question assumptions they've held their entire lives. Yoda moderates, asks probing questions, but rarely gives definitive answers. He wants them to think, to struggle with these issues, to develop their own moral frameworks rather than just accepting what they're told. One evening, the discussion turns to mercy. If you have Voldemort defeated, if you have him helpless at your feet, what do you do? Kill him? Imprison him? Try to redeem him? Harry argues for killing him. He's too dangerous to leave alive, too likely to escape any prison. Hermione argues for trial and imprisonment, that killing a helpless enemy makes you no better than a murderer. Neville, surprisingly, argues for the possibility of redemption, that even Voldemort was human once, that maybe with enough time and effort, the person he was before he became a monster could be reached. Yoda lets them argue it out, but when they turn to him for an answer, he shakes his head. A right answer there is not. Context matters. Your own soul, consider you must. Kill him in battle when threatening others he is, justified that might be. Execute him helpless, different that is. Changes you, it does. But let him live, if means more innocents die. Can accept that, you can. Hard choices, war forces. Easy answers, there are none. Only choose and live with consequences you can. This kind of teaching, this refusal to give simple answers, frustrates some students. They want to be told what's right and wrong, but Yoda knows that life is more complicated than that. The real world requires judgment, requires the ability to weigh complex factors and make difficult decisions. He's preparing them not just to fight, but to lead, to make the kinds of choices that will haunt them, but that must be made. The Ministry, of course, doesn't like any of this. Fudge and his cronies are threatened by Hogwarts becoming a center of power independent of Ministry control. They try to reassert authority, to pass educational decrees that would limit what Yoda can teach. But Yoda, backed by the Hogwarts Board of Governors and the ancient laws protecting the school's autonomy, simply ignores them. Authority over Hogwarts, the Ministry does not have, he states plainly when Ministry officials come to enforce their decrees. Educate our students as we see fit, we will. Approve of this, you do not have to. The Ministry officials bluster and threaten, but they can't actually do anything. Hogwarts is protected by ancient magic, by treaties and laws that predate the Ministry itself. And Yoda, if they tried to force the issue, is more than capable of defending the school. They leave, frustrated and angry, and the Ministry's relationship with Hogwarts deteriorates further. This sets up a conflict that's simmering in the background. The Ministry sees Yoda as a threat, sees Hogwarts under his leadership as a potential rival power base. They start spreading propaganda, suggesting that Yoda is brainwashing students, that he's creating a private army, that he's preparing to challenge the Ministry's authority. Some of this gets traction with parents and the public. Others recognize it as the desperate fear-mongering that it is. Meanwhile, Voldemort is also concerned about Hogwarts. His attempt to capture Harry through the Triwizard Tournament failed. His spy in the castle was discovered and captured. And this Yoda creature has proven to be far more formidable than expected. Voldemort needs a new approach. He decides to accelerate his plans, to perform the resurrection ritual without Harry's blood if necessary. It will be less powerful, less symbolically significant, but he can't wait any longer. Yoda is making Hogwarts into a fortress, training students into warriors. If Voldemort waits too long, he'll face an entire generation of wizards and witches who are prepared for him, who aren't afraid, who know how to fight. The ritual happens in secret, in a hidden location known only to Voldemort's inner circle. Without Harry's blood, the protection Harry's mother gave him remains intact. But Voldemort accepts this limitation. He'll find another way to kill the boy. What matters now is that he has a body again, that he's corporeal, that he can act directly rather than through proxies. When Voldemort returns, the Death Eaters rejoice. Their master is back, more powerful than ever, ready to lead them to victory. But Voldemort's first priority isn't attacking the Ministry or going after Harry. His first priority is understanding Yoda, learning about this being that has so disrupted his plans. He sends scouts, spies, anyone who can get information. What is this creature? Where did it come from? What are its powers? What are its weaknesses? The information they bring back is disturbing. Yoda doesn't use magic the way wizards do. He seems to have powers that operate on entirely different principles. He can sense things across great distances. He can move objects with his mind without incantations. He appears to be able to predict attacks before they happen. And most concerning, he seems to have no fear of death whatsoever, which makes him almost impossible to intimidate or control. Voldemort realizes he's facing something unprecedented. Every opponent he's faced before, he understood. They used magic like he did, thought like he did, feared like he did. Even Dumbledore, powerful as he was, operated within parameters Voldemort understood. But Yoda is different. Yoda is alien, in the most literal sense. And that makes him dangerous in ways Voldemort can't fully calculate. So Voldemort begins planning, not for a direct assault, but for something more subtle. If he can't defeat Yoda through power, perhaps he can undermine him politically. Perhaps he can turn the wizarding world against Hogwarts, isolate the school, cut it off from resources and support. He begins influencing Ministry officials, planting seeds of doubt and fear. He has his followers spread rumors about Yoda, suggesting he's dangerous, unstable, preparing students for a coup against the Ministry. He works to create a situation where the Ministry and Hogwarts are at odds, where the wizarding world turns on itself while he builds his strength in the shadows. This strategy has some success. The Ministry becomes increasingly paranoid about Hogwarts. They demand inspections, demand oversight, demand that Yoda be replaced with someone more acceptable. When Yoda refuses, when Hogwarts stands firm, the ministry begins implementing sanctions. They cut funding to the school. They refuse to recognize Hogwarts credentials for ministry jobs. They make it difficult for Hogwarts students to get apprenticeships or positions in the magical community. It's a slow-motion siege, an attempt to strangle Hogwarts economically and politically, rather than attacking it directly. And it works to a degree. Some parents, worried about their children's futures, withdraw them from Hogwarts. Some staff members, uncertain about the school's future, leave for more secure positions. The school that was once seen as the pinnacle of magical education in Britain is now controversial, divided under attack from multiple sides. But those who remain, who believe in what Yoda is building, become even more committed. The students who stay train harder, knowing that they're preparing for a war that most of the wizarding world is trying to pretend isn't coming. The staff who remain work longer hours, teach with more passion, determined to make sure their students are ready. Hogwarts becomes leaner, smaller, but in some ways stronger. United by adversity, bound by common purpose. Yoda himself remains calm through all of this. He's weathered storms before, seen empires fall and rise again. Political pressure, economic sanctions, these are temporary problems. What matters is preparing the next generation, giving them the tools they'll need to survive what's coming. He knows Voldemort is back, even if the Ministry refuses to officially acknowledge it. He knows the final confrontation is approaching, and he's determined that when it comes, his students will be ready. The Horcrux problem becomes a central focus. Through his research and through information provided by Dumbledore's portrait, Yoda learns about all of Voldemort's Horcruxes. The ring, the locket, the cup, the diadem, the snake, and the piece in Harry. 6 anchors tying Voldemort to life. They need to be destroyed before Voldemort can be truly defeated. Yoda forms a task force, not just the trio, but a larger group. Experienced Order members like Moody the Real One, freed from captivity, Tonks, Lupin, Kingsley. Skilled students like Neville, Ginny, Luna. They work together, tracking down the Horcruxes one by one. It's dangerous work. The Horcruxes are hidden, protected by dark magic and deadly traps. But with coordination, planning, and the skills Yoda has taught them, they succeed. The ring is retrieved from the Gaunt Shack. Dumbledore, in the original timeline, tried to do this alone and nearly died. But with a team, with multiple people to spot dangers and counter curses, they succeed without casualties. The ring is destroyed, one anchor severed. The locket is more difficult. Hidden in the cave by the sea, protected by inferi and dark potions. But they plan carefully, bring supplies, work as a coordinated unit. Harry and Ron swim to retrieve the locket while Hermione and others hold off the inferi with fire spells and strategic barriers. They escape, damaged and exhausted, but successful. Another Horcrux destroyed. The cup in Gringotts is perhaps the most audacious mission. Breaking into the most secure bank in the wizarding world, getting past dragons and goblins and layers of protective magic, is nearly impossible. But Yoda has been working with the goblins, who have their own grievances against the Ministry and against Voldemort. He negotiates a deal, offering Hogwarts support in future goblin rights issues in exchange for their cooperation. The goblins, seeing an opportunity to back a winner and gain leverage, provide inside help. The cup is retrieved, though not without significant danger and a narrow escape on Dragonback that becomes legendary. The diadem in the Room of Requirement is found through Luna's intuition and Hermione's research. They destroy it with fiendfire, carefully controlled by Yoda himself so it doesn't burn down the entire castle. Another anchor gone. Nagini, Voldemort's snake, is the most difficult because she's always with Voldemort, protected by his most powerful magic. They have to wait for an opportunity, have to be patient. When it finally comes, when Nagini is sent on a mission and briefly separated from Voldemort, they strike. Neville, of all people, delivers the killing blow with Gryffindor's sword, proving his courage and skill. That leaves only one Horcrux, the one in Harry, and this is where all of Yoda's training, all of his preparation comes to fruition. The process they've been working on for months, weakening the connection between Harry and the Horcrux, has progressed as far as it can without taking the final dangerous step. It's time to attempt the separation. They prepare carefully, choosing a time and place with the strongest protective magic. The Hogwarts wards are reinforced. The staff and the Order form a protective perimeter. Harry is surrounded by those who love him most: Ron, Hermione, Hagrid, the Weasleys, Sirius, who escaped with Yoda's help, Remus, Tonks, and Yoda, ancient and powerful, prepares to attempt something that's never been done before in either of his worlds. to surgically remove a piece of soul from a living host without killing either the host or allowing the soul fragment to escape. Ready you are? Yoda asks Harry, and Harry nods. He's terrified, but he trusts Yoda. He's been preparing for this moment for months. He knows what he has to do. He has to hold on to himself, to his own identity, while Yoda works to separate the foreign darkness. He has to fight from within while Yoda fights from without. He has to be strong. The process begins. Harry closes his eyes, going deep into meditation, finding that place inside himself where his soul meets the Horcrux. Yoda's magic, a strange blend of wizard magic and force techniques adapted to this universe, surrounds them both. To the observers, it looks like nothing is happening. Harry sitting still, Yoda standing before him with one hand raised. But inside it's a war. The Horcrux fights. It screams and rages and tries to drag Harry down into darkness. It shows him visions of everyone he loves dying, shows him futures where he fails, where Voldemort wins, where everything he's fought for is destroyed. It tells him he's weak, tells him he's nothing, tells him that he and Voldemort are the same and that trying to separate them will kill them both. But Harry fights back, not with anger or hatred, but with love, with memories of his parents, of Sirius, of all his friends, with determination to protect them, to give them a future free from Voldemort's shadow, with the training Yoda has given him, the techniques for strengthening his sense of self, for knowing who he is at his core. And slowly, agonizingly slowly, the connection weakens. Yoda's magic, patient and precise, finds the points where the Horcrux is attached and carefully, so carefully, begins to separate it. It's like surgery on a soul, requiring incredible precision and control. One wrong move and Harry could die. One moment of lost focus and the Horcrux could flee, could escape into the ether and find a new host. But Yoda's concentration is absolute, his control perfect. Hours pass, though to Harry it feels like days. The Horcrux's screams get louder, more desperate. It knows it's losing, knows it's being torn away from its host. It makes one last attempt, tries to pull Harry's soul with it, tries to drag them both into death rather than be separated. But Harry holds firm, anchored by love, by purpose, by everything Yoda has taught him about who he is and who he chooses to be. And then, suddenly it's over. The connection snaps. The Horcrux comes free, a dark, writhing thing that Yoda immediately contains in a sphere of light. It shrieks and rages, but it's trapped, powerless. Yoda speaks a word in a language no one has ever heard, and the Horcrux bursts into flames, consuming itself, ceasing to exist. Harry collapses, unconscious but alive. Ron and Hermione rush to his side, checking his pulse, his breathing. He's alive. He's free. The scar on his forehead, that lightning bolt mark that has defined him his entire life, fades to a pale silvery line, no longer dark, no longer pulsing with Voldemort's magic. Just a scar, a memory of something that happened but no longer has power over him. When Harry wakes, hours later, he feels different, lighter, cleaner. For the first time in his life, his mind is entirely his own. No connection to Voldemort. No dark presence lurking at the edge of his consciousness. No visions, no pain, no sense of being tethered to something evil. He's free, truly completely free, and with all the Horcruxes destroyed, Voldemort has become mortal again. He doesn't know it yet. He can feel that something is wrong, that his anchors to life are gone, but he doesn't understand the full implications. He thinks he still has time, still has immortality as his backup plan, but he's wrong. When he dies, it will be permanent. Final. The end of the Dark Lord Voldemort. The final battle, when it comes, is not at Hogwarts. Yoda refuses to let Voldemort turn the school into a battlefield, refuses to let the place where children learn become a place where they die. Instead, he chooses the field of battle, announces to Voldemort through intermediaries that the Order of the Phoenix, the Hogwarts Defenders, and all who oppose darkness will meet his forces at a specific location on a specific date. It's unprecedented, armies meeting by appointment. But Yoda believes in facing enemies directly, in not allowing innocents to be caught in the crossfire. Voldemort, arrogant and confident, agrees. He thinks it's a trap, but he doesn't care. He believes he's invincible, believes that with his Death Eaters and dark creatures and centuries of dark magic knowledge, he can crush any opposition. He doesn't understand that he's facing something he's never encountered before. A coordinated defense force trained by someone who has actually fought and won galactic-scale wars. The battlefield is a wide, open plain far from any population center. The Ministry Aurors, what few of them are brave enough to defy Fudge's ostrich head in sand approach, are there. The Order of the Phoenix in full force. Hogwarts staff and students of age who chose to fight. Members of other magical communities who have been convinced to join the cause. On the other side, Death Eaters, dark wizards from across Europe drawn by Voldemort's call. Dark creatures, werewolves, giants, all the forces of darkness gathering for what they think will be an easy victory. Yoda stands at the front of the light side forces. Small and ancient, leaning on his walking stick. Voldemort, tall and terrible, faces him from across the field. So, Voldemort's voice carries, amplified by magic. The creature that thinks it can stop me. You should have stayed in whatever hole you crawled out of, alien. This world belongs to wizards, and soon it will belong to me. Belong to you it will not, Yoda replies, his voice calm and clear. Tried this, others have. Fallen, they all have. Think yourself different, you do? Special, destined, heard it all before I have. And always the dark side falls. Always, those who choose power over compassion destroy themselves. Today and it will. Your reign of terror over it is. Voldemort laughs, and it's a sound like breaking glass. You dare speak to me of terror? I am terror. I am death incarnate. I am immortal. But even as he says it, there's a flicker of uncertainty. He's felt his Horcruxes being destroyed. He knows something is wrong, even if he won't admit it. Immortal you are not, Yoda says, and there's pity in his voice now. Mortal like everyone else you are. And today, face mortality, you will. Face judgment for your crimes. Face the end you have feared your whole life. Tom Riddle, afraid boy who wanted to live forever, meet your death you will. But remembered, you will not be. Forgotten, like all tyrants eventually are. This, more than anything, enrages Voldemort. To be called by his birth name, to be called afraid, to be told he'll be forgotten. He shrieks in fury and the battle begins. Death Eaters charge forward. Giants lumber across the field. Werewolves howl and attack. And the forces of light meet them with coordinated precision that the dark side has never encountered. This isn't a chaotic melee where individual duels determine the outcome. This is a military operation, groups working together, covering each other, using tactics and strategy. The Hogwarts students fight in teams, exactly as they trained. When Death Eaters try to overwhelm individuals, they find themselves facing coordinated responses that neutralize their advantages. When giants attack, they're met with focused fire from multiple wizards and witches, taking them down one by one. When werewolves charge, they run into barriers and traps that funnel them into kill zones where they can be dealt with safely. The Death Eaters, used to terrorizing individuals and small groups, used to their reputation making opponents flee in panic, find themselves fighting an actual army, and they're losing. Slowly but surely, they're being pushed back, being defeated, being captured or killed. The Order of the Phoenix, with Moody and Tonks and Kingsley leading sections, fights with skill and determination. The Hogwarts staff, McGonagall transforming objects into an army of animated defenders, Flitwick casting shields and offensive spells with precision, Sprout using plants as weapons, fights with everything they have, and the students prove that Yoda's training was worth it. Harry, Ron, and Hermione fight together like a single organism. Neville leads a squad that takes down 2 Death Eaters and a werewolf without taking casualties. Luna's strategic insights guide her group to intercept enemies before they can flank their allies. Ginny's hexes drop opponents faster than they can recover. The Weasley twins turn portions of the battlefield into chaos that only their side can navigate. These kids, teenagers really, fight like seasoned warriors because Yoda taught them not just magic, but discipline, strategy, and the will to protect what they love. In the center of it all, Voldemort and Yoda face each other. The Dark Lord unleashes everything he has, spells of such power and darkness that they should overwhelm anyone. The Killing Curse, again and again. Fiend fire that consumes everything in its path. Dark magic that tears at the fabric of reality itself. And Yoda meets it all, deflects it, contains it, neutralizes it. He doesn't attack with the same kind of power. His magic is defensive, protective, focused on stopping Voldemort rather than destroying him. Why? Voldemort screams, frustrated that his most powerful magic is being casually brushed aside. Why do you not attack? Are you weak? Are you afraid? Afraid I am not, Yoda replies. But kill you I do not need to. Defeated you already are. Look around you, Tom Riddle. Your forces falling they are. Your Death Eaters captured or killed. Your dark creatures driven back. Your army broken. Lost you have. And now face justice you will. Voldemort does look, and for the first time, fear genuinely touches him. His Death Eaters are being systematically taken down. The giants are fleeing or fallen. The werewolves are in retreat. The battle is lost, and unlike in the past, he has no Horcruxes to fall back on. If he dies here, it will be permanent. Real death. The thing he's feared and avoided his entire adult life. He panics then, truly panics, and in his panic he makes mistakes. He lashes out wildly, desperately, trying to break through Yoda's defenses. But Yoda is 900 years old. He's faced down Sith Lords and Darkside users more powerful than Voldemort can imagine. He's weathered the fall of the Republic and the rise of the Empire. He's seen the worst the galaxy has to offer. And this broken, afraid man who calls himself a Dark Lord is nothing compared to what Yoda has already survived. With a gesture, Yoda disarms Voldemort, sending his wand flying through the air into Harry's waiting hand. Another gesture and Voldemort is frozen, unable to move, unable to flee, unable to do anything but stand there as the reality of his defeat crashes down on him. The Dark Lord, the terror of the wizarding world, the greatest dark wizard of the age, brought down not by another dark wizard or by lucky heroics, but by strategy, preparation, and the coordinated efforts of people who chose to stand together against evil. Over. It is, Yoda says, and there's no triumph in his voice. Just tired satisfaction. Your reign of terror ended, your legacy dust, your name, a warning to future generations of what not to become. Take him you will, he says to the Aurors. Trial he will have, justice he will face, and then forgotten he will be. As Voldemort is taken away, as the Death Eaters are rounded up, as the casualties are tallied and the dead are mourned, the wizarding world begins to understand what has happened. Hogwarts, under Yoda's leadership, just won a war that could have destroyed magical Britain. Students barely out of school fought like trained soldiers and survived. The Death Eaters, who have terrorized the wizarding world for decades, have been decisively defeated. And Voldemort, immortal no more, will face trial and punishment for his crimes. The aftermath is complex. There are those who are grateful, who recognize that Yoda saved the wizarding world from tyranny. But there are also those who are frightened, who fear what it means that Hogwarts has this kind of power, that students have been turned into warriors. The Ministry, embarrassed by their inaction and denial, tries to take credit for the victory, tries to spin the narrative that they were in control all along. But too many people know the truth. Too many witnessed the battle and know who really led the defense. Fudge is forced to resign. The new minister, Kingsley Shacklebolt, someone who actually fought in the battle, someone who understands what was at stake, works to rebuild trust with Hogwarts. The sanctions are lifted. The funding is restored. Hogwarts graduates find that their credentials are not just accepted but sought after. The school that was controversial just months ago is now recognized as having produced the generation that saved the wizarding world. But there's a cost to all of this. Students who fought in the battle are changed by it. They've seen death, dealt death, been forced to make impossible choices. They have trauma and nightmares, and the psychological scars that come from combat. Yoda, understanding this better than anyone, institutes counseling and support systems. He brings in mind healers, creates support groups, ensures that these young people who fought so bravely have the help they need to process what they've experienced. Harry, in particular, struggles. He's free from Voldemort, free from the Horcrux, free from the destiny that's defined his entire life. But who is he without that? What does he do now? Yoda spends time with him, helping him understand that his life is just beginning, that he can be whoever he chooses to be now. He doesn't have to be the boy who lived or the chosen one. He can just be Harry, and that's enough. Hermione throws herself into reforming the wizarding world's laws, working to eliminate the pure-blood supremacist policies and prejudices that allowed Voldemort to rise in the first place. She becomes a force for change, using the credibility she earned in battle to push for house elf rights, werewolf rights, muggle-born protections. She's relentless and brilliant, and she starts making real progress. Ron, to everyone's surprise, including his own, decides to teach. He goes back to Hogwarts as an assistant professor, working with students on practical defense and tactical thinking. He discovers he has a gift for it, for taking complex concepts and making them accessible, for encouraging students who think they're not good enough. He becomes one of the most beloved teachers at Hogwarts. Proof that you don't have to be the smartest or most powerful to make a difference. Neville takes over herbology, as always, but he also teaches a class on courage and facing your fears. He's open about his own struggles, his own journey from a scared, clumsy boy to a confident warrior. Students respond to his honesty and his kindness. He becomes a counselor as much as a teacher, helping students believe in themselves. Luna travels the world studying magical creatures, as expected. But she also becomes an advocate for seeing beyond appearances, for understanding before judging. She writes articles and gives talks about the importance of keeping an open mind, of not dismissing things just because they seem strange. She becomes a voice for acceptance and tolerance in the magical community. And Draco Malfoy, the boy who could have become a Death Eater, who was inches away from taking the dark mark and following in his father's footsteps, chooses a different path. He testifies at his father's trial, admitting what Lucius Malfoy had planned for him, what he had been taught. It costs him his family, at least temporarily. His father is sent to Azkaban. His mother, Narcissa, eventually comes around, choosing her son over her ideology, but it takes time. Draco goes into magical law enforcement, specifically working to prevent the radicalization of young wizards and witches. He uses his understanding of pure-blood culture and Death Eater recruitment tactics to identify and intervene with at-risk youth. He saves dozens, maybe hundreds, from the path he almost walked. The wizarding world changes. Not overnight, not perfectly, but it changes. The rigid house divisions at Hogwarts become less important. Students are encouraged to have friends in other houses, to value qualities beyond those of their own house. The stigma against Slytherin, while not eliminated entirely, is greatly reduced. People start to understand that ambition and cunning aren't inherently evil, that Slytherins can be heroes too. The pure-blood supremacist ideology that enabled Voldemort's rise is openly challenged and condemned. It becomes socially unacceptable to express those views, to discriminate based on blood status. Muggle-borns and half-bloods take positions of power and influence throughout magical society. The Old Guard, the pure-blood families who controlled everything for centuries, find their influence waning as a new generation takes over. A generation that fought together regardless of blood status and knows that what matters is character, not ancestry. Yoda remains at Hogwarts for several more years after the war, consolidating the changes, ensuring that the lessons learned aren't forgotten, training the next generation of teachers to carry on his methods. But eventually, as all things must, his time comes to an end. At nearly 960 years old, Yoda can feel his life force fading. He's accomplished what he came to this world to do. He's broken the cycle of darkness, or at least started the process. He's given the wizarding world the tools it needs to build a better future. On his last day, he gathers those closest to him one final time. Not just Harry, Ron, and Hermione, but all of them. Neville, Luna, Ginny, Draco, the professors, the Order members. They fill his office, sitting on the floor, on conjured chairs, anywhere they can fit. They're all crying or trying not to cry. They know what this is. They know he's saying goodbye. "Mourn me, do not," Yoda says, his voice weaker than they've ever heard it, but still clear. "A good life I have lived. Many students I have trained. Much good I have done. And here, at the end, surrounded by friends, at peace, I am. More than that, what could anyone ask?" Harry tries to speak, tries to thank him for everything, but his voice breaks. Hermione succeeds where he can't. "You changed everything," she says. "You saved us. You saved the wizarding world. We can never repay what you've given us." "Repay me." Yoda smiles. "No need. Forward, pay it. Teach others, you will. Use what I taught you, you will. Make the world better, you will. That is payment enough." He looks at each of them in turn, his eyes still sharp and knowing despite his body's weakness. To Harry, "Defined by your past, you are not. By your choices, known you will be. Choose wisely." To Hermione, "Knowledge, valuable it is, but wisdom more valuable. Knowledge and compassion together, unstoppable they are." To Ron, "Important you are. Never doubt that. The glue you are. The heart. Without you, fall apart they would." To Neville, "From fear to courage, far you have come. Inspire others you will. Show them that brave anyone can be. Strong anyone can be. Just choose it, they must." To Luna, "See the world clearly you do. Not as it is presented, but as it truly is. Gift, that is. Use it well." To Draco, "Hardest path you chose. Away from darkness towards light. Proud of you I am. Redeemed yourself you have. Now, help others do the same. To McGonagall. Lead them well you will. Strict but fair you are. What they need. Trust yourself. To Snape. Forgiven yourself, you have, finally. Peace you have earned. Live Severus. Truly live. And then, to all of them. Remember always, the greatest teacher, failure is. Learn from mistakes, grow from them, you must. Size matters not. Judge by appearances do not. What's on the inside, more important it is. And most important, fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering. Choose love, choose compassion, choose understanding. Not easy it will be, but right, it is. And that is what matters. His eyes close. His breathing slows. And then, gently, peacefully, Yoda's body fades, becoming one with the Force, leaving only his robes and his walking stick. There's a moment of profound silence, and then someone notices something incredible. Where Yoda's body was, there's now a soft blue glow. It forms into a shape, into a figure. It's Yoda, transparent and ethereal. A Force ghost in the Star Wars tradition, though no one in this room knows to call it that. Gone I am not, the spirit says, smiling. Changed I have. Always around you I will be. In the lessons you learned, in the choices you make, in the Force, in the magic, in everything. Alone you are not, never alone. Remember that, and then the glow fades and he's gone. But they all feel him still, a presence in the castle, in the grounds, in their hearts. He's not truly gone. He's transformed, become something more than physical, something eternal. The funeral is attended by thousands. People from across the wizarding world and beyond come to pay respects to the being who saved them from darkness. His portrait, hung in the headmaster's office next to Dumbledore's and the others, is active immediately. The painted Yoda smiles and offers advice to whoever holds the position, though he mostly naps, claiming even as a painting, 960 years entitles him to rest. McGonagall takes over as headmistress, as everyone knew she would. She maintains Yoda's changes while also bringing back some of the traditions that had been set aside. Hogwarts becomes a synthesis of old and new, respecting its history while embracing innovation. The morning meditations continue. The house mixing continues. The emphasis on emotional intelligence and self-understanding continues. But so do Quidditch matches and house competitions and all the things that made Hogwarts special before Yoda arrived. Years pass, decades. The generation that fought in the war grows old, has children, tells stories of the time when a small green master came from another world and taught them how to be more than just wizards and witches, but how to be good people. Their children attend Hogwarts and learn the same lessons, adapted for a new generation. The cycle of dark wizards rising doesn't return. Oh, there are dark wizards still, individuals who make bad choices, who hurt others. But the systemic darkness, the kind that nearly destroyed the wizarding world, doesn't come back. Because too many people remember. Too many people were taught to recognize the warning signs, to stand up before it's too late, to choose love over fear, and sometimes students swear they see him. A small green figure walking the halls at night, leaning on a walking stick. Or hear his voice in moments of doubt, offering advice, offering comfort. It's probably just their imagination, probably just the wish that their legendary teacher was still with them. Or maybe not. Maybe Yoda, even in death, watches over the school he transformed, the students he saved. Maybe the Force or magic or whatever connects all living things, carries his presence still. The wizarding world is better for his time there. Not perfect, never perfect, but better. The lessons he taught, about balance and discipline, and looking inside yourself before trying to control the world, become part of magical education throughout Britain and eventually spread to other countries. Durmstrang adopts some of his methods. Beauxbatons incorporates meditation into their curriculum. Even Ilvermorny in America starts teaching emotional intelligence alongside spell work. It turns out that what Yoda brought to Hogwarts wasn't just different methods or new techniques. It was a fundamental shift in how magical education is approached. Magic isn't just a tool to be mastered. It's a responsibility to be taken seriously. Power without wisdom is dangerous. Talent without ethics is destructive. These aren't revolutionary ideas, not really. But Yoda made them central, made them the foundation of everything else. And that made all the difference. Harry, in his old age, visits Hogwarts and walks the halls he once knew so well. He passes students practicing meditation in the Great Hall before breakfast. He sees mixed-house study groups in the library. He watches dueling practice where students work in coordinated teams rather than one-on-one competitions. And he smiles because this is Yoda's legacy. This is what that strange, wonderful, ancient being built. He makes his way to the headmaster's office, where McGonagall, ancient now herself, welcomes him with tea. They sit in comfortable silence for a while, and then Harry looks up at Yoda's portrait. The painted eyes open, and Yoda smiles at him. "Grown old you have," the portrait says. "But grown wise also, I see. Proud of you I am, all of you. Change the world you did, and change it still you do." "We're trying," Harry says. "Doing our best to honor what you taught us. More than that, no one can ask," Yoda replies. "Your best, always enough it is. Remember that. Teach that. Pass it on." And that's the real answer to the question we started with. What if Yoda was the headmaster of Hogwarts? The school would be transformed, yes. The students would be better prepared, certainly. But more than that, more than any specific change or technique or method, Yoda would give them hope. He would show them that darkness can be defeated, that cycles can be broken, that a better future is possible if people are willing to work for it. He would teach them that size doesn't matter, that what's inside is what counts, that fear and anger and hatred are paths to destruction, but love and compassion and understanding are paths to something better. He would show them that heroes don't have to be perfect. They don't have to be without fear or doubt or flaws. They just have to choose, every day, every moment, to try to do better, to be better, to make the world a little bit brighter and a little bit safer for those who come after. That's what being a hero really means. That's what Yoda understood after 900 years of life. That's what he taught them, and in teaching them he saved not just their world but potentially countless others, because the students he trained went on to teach others, who taught others, spreading his wisdom like ripples from a stone dropped in a pond. The wizarding world changed, and from that change came more change, until darkness, while never completely gone, found fewer places to hide, fewer cracks to grow in. The light was stronger because Yoda had been there. The future was brighter because he had taken the time to teach. So if you're wondering whether Hogwarts would be better with Yoda as headmaster, the answer is unequivocally yes. Not because he was more powerful than Dumbledore, though he was certainly different. Not because his methods were objectively superior, though they were effective. But because he brought something the wizarding world desperately needed. A perspective from outside their culture, outside their traditions, outside their assumptions about how things have to be. He looked at their world with ancient eyes that had seen it all before in different forms, and he knew what worked and what didn't, what led to peace and what led to destruction. He was exactly what they needed, at exactly the time they needed it. And in giving them what they needed, he gave them the tools to save themselves, to be better than they thought they could be, to break free from cycles of hatred and fear that had trapped them for generations. That's the legacy of Headmaster Yoda. Not just a war won or a Dark Lord defeated, but a fundamental transformation in how a society thinks about power, responsibility, and the future. And maybe that's the real lesson here. That sometimes the most important changes come from the most unexpected sources. That wisdom can come from unlikely places. That we should never judge by size or appearance or how different someone seems. Because the small green creature who spoke backwards and lived in a swamp turned out to be exactly what the wizarding world needed to find its way back to the light. And that's a lesson worth remembering, in any universe, in any world, at any time. A lesson Yoda would be proud to know was understood and passed on, from generation to generation, for as long as there are people willing to learn and willing to teach others in turn. That's the real magic. Not spells or potions or even the Force, but the simple act of one generation caring enough about the next to prepare them, to teach them, to give them the tools they need to build something better. And that's what Yoda did at Hogwarts. That's his true legacy. Not the battles won or the Dark Lords defeated, important as those were, but the simple fact that he cared enough to really teach not just magic but wisdom, not just power but responsibility, not just knowledge but character. In doing so, he changed everything. He made the wizarding world better. He made Hogwarts better, and most importantly, he made the people who learned from him better. That's what a great teacher does. That's what Yoda did, and that's why even decades after he's gone, even generations later, his name is still spoken with reverence and his lessons are still taught, and his legacy still shapes the world he left behind. So yes, if Yoda was the headmaster of Hogwarts, everything would change. and it would be exactly the change they needed.